Good? So we're going to continue on the topic of trusting in Hashem, and then after that we're going to continue where we left off last week of learning the halachot of Avilut. That's what we decided to learn during these 3 weeks. That's a good time to be able to learn these halachot a little bit in the sources, maybe learn the topic a little bit in more depth. So it says that the 7 conditions that we needed to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has in order for a person to trust in Hashem. He says the first thing is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has more mercy on a person than any merciful person in the world. There's nobody that has more mercy than Hashem. He says not only that, it says any mercy or compassion that anybody ever shows you in life is a direct result of Hashem putting mercy and compassion in that person's heart for you. Then, anybody that's compassionate and merciful to you is because the HaKadosh Baruch Hu put in their heart to be compassionate and merciful to you. Like the pasuk says, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts mercy in your heart in order for you to be merciful to other people. He says, Hashem yoten b'libcha et midat rachmanut al achirim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in your heart the midah of mercy in order for you to be able to have mercy on other people. V'richamcha v'al yedei kach hu yidbarach ichem alecha midah keneged midah. When Hashem wants to have mercy on somebody, Hashem puts mercy in people's hearts to have mercy on him. If there's judgment on a person and Hashem doesn't want to have mercy on this person, everybody becomes cruel to this person. You can have one person that'll be cruel to somebody, you tell him, oh, this person's so cruel. Really? I don't think he was cruel. I think he was a great person. Why do he was like that and you were like that? Because Mina Shemayim, to you he deserved like this and he deserved like that. Because this Baruch Hu puts in a person's heart how to feel towards you. And also the Chachamim tell us, Kol ha-menachem ala b'riyot, menachamim ala min ha-shamayim. Sharei ha-borei berach otam b'lev b'nei adam l'tarachmut an achirim. Says that anybody that's merachem on people, anybody that has mercy on other people, they have mercy on him also min ha-shamayim. Midah keneged midah. Right? When you are a merciful person, min ha-shamayim, they're going to make it that other people are going to be merciful for you also. Right? The Gemara says in Nedarim, the Gemara over there says that, if I don't remember the details, the Gemara says if a person made a neder to become a nazir, right? Can you take away part of the neder? The part that can't eat, can't drink wine and stuff like that, but leave the part of the nazir that, you can't be contaminated to dead people? It says no. Why? Because a person that doesn't become contaminated to dead people can't go to a grave. It is also considered a form of suffering for a person. Why? It says because after 120, a person wants everybody to come and to eulogize and to bury him and to be a part of. So the Gemara says, if you're going to be the type of person that you're not going to go to people's graves and you're not going to eulogize people and you're not going to be there for people when people pass away, then eventually people won't come to you also. See, like a person creates his own reaction in the world, right? The way you are, you're putting that into the world, and the world is going to give it back to you. Same way. That's what he's telling you. So a person has to know that all the mercy and compassion that somebody has to him is from Hashem. That means that if you have somebody that came to you, and he did something very nice to you, you have to thank Hashem. Why? Because Baruch Hu put it in his heart to be nice to you. It doesn't have to be nice to you. Right? Sometimes somebody can come, and it can be very mean to you. Why? Because Baruch Hu put it in his heart to be mean to you. The person has to know this.
How do you change that? If somebody's bad to you, what are you supposed to do? Accept it, fight it?
Well, at first you're supposed to, for sure, know that this is direct message from Hashem. That if this person is bad for you, Hashem is telling you something. Then you try to make shalom. You try to be open with them a little bit. Speak to them, try to make shalom with them. Try to daven to Hashem, then Hashem should remove this machloket to try to make this person be nicer to you. And you do your ishtadlus properly. Fighting it is never going to get anywhere. Where did you ever find that if a person is mean to you and you fight back and you be mean to the person, that actually got to a positive result? Over here, 2 negatives don't make a positive. You're not going to get to a positive relationship if you're going to fight back with somebody.
But no one's noticing again.
What?
Wait a minute, somebody say it again?
Both of them are upset, so one of them calm down and then they become friends.
That's what he's saying. One of them needs to put their head down.
Right, one of them needs to put their head down. It says, right, how was the pasuk again? Kemaim lepanim ken lev adam ba'adam. Just like a person's face reflection to him in the water, so it also is a person's heart reflect to a person's heart, right? The parish of that pasuk really means is that the way you are feeling towards me, you're reflecting it to me, that's the way you're going to reflect back to me, right? The way I'm going to feel towards you and the way I'm going to reflect towards you is how you're going to reflect back towards me. So why did Shlomo Melech use an example of water? Just like the reflection of a person in a person through water, so it's also a person's heart to a person's heart. Why didn't Shlomo Melech use a mirror, a piece of silver, right? You could see a reflection. Why did he use water? So the Bali Musar say, because by water, in order to be able to see a reflection, you need to bend over, right? Whenever you bend down, that's how you could see reflection. He says also when it comes to people, in order to be able to connect a proper relationship, sometimes you have to be able to bend down. You have to be able to be humble. The Gemara says, why was it that a reed, a bamboo, was used to write Sifri Torah Tefillin Mezuzot? Because it has humble midot. It has strong roots in the water and it bends with all the winds. Whenever things get difficult, it bends. It's able to bend and come back. Able to be flexible, right? A person that has to be flexible. The person has to be able to make, in order to make shalom, sometimes you have to be able to be patient and go about things the right way. A lot of times people are arrogant. So sometimes people have a very low self-esteem and they cannot accept the fact that they're wrong in any way. And they just become very, what is that called? Try to be very controlling and very protecting, how does that called? There's a word for it, defensive, right? Because they don't have the proper ability to be able to accept that they're doing anything wrong, right? But any normal person understands that in order to be able to fix a situation, you have to go about it the right way, and it's not always easy. Sometimes the nisayon is very big, but lamaaseh, a person has to know that everything is, at the end of the day, was min hashemayim. The next thing, that a person also has to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything that's good for you. Just like a creator that creates something and knows exactly how he created it, knows exactly everything about it and what's good for it and what's bad for it, so also HaKadosh Baruch Hu created us, he created the whole world, he knows exactly what's good for you. He knows exactly what's good for your neshama, in your life, in your future, in your children. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu designed your life perfectly for you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one who created you and he gave you the path that you're on. Right? For sure, everybody has free choice, but even in the free choice that a person has, he's also somewhat limited. The person's actions will always create a reaction, but the situations that Hashem put a person in are the situations that he belongs in. And the choices that he makes is really up to him. The reaction is going to be based on those choices that he made, but the whole situation as a whole, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put this person in because that was the situation he was designed to be in. Just like a child, just like a father loves his son, and he has to punish him sometimes to put him in the right place. So also HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves the person, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu sometimes has to be able to put the person in the right place, to do it the right way. The Ramchal says, anytime a person sees any sorts of difficulty in life, it's a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu telling him that he has to change something, that something has to be done. The Ramchal says there's no such a thing as suffering for the purpose of suffering. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't give people difficult situations. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't just make a person suffer, it doesn't just make something difficult for a person. If Hashem is giving a person a difficult time or something suffering in a person's life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling a person there's something he needs to change. Hashem is asking him for something. Hashem is telling him that he needs to do something. That's what the Ramchal says. It's an interesting idea, right? And he says until a person doesn't wake up and get the message, it generally doesn't go away. Sometimes it can get worse. What?
So that's what Shalom. Somebody, I met a guy yesterday. He's like 19 years old. He's diabetic. He was raised at the age of 11. So he's diabetic. He was breaking Shabbat, not breaking Shabbat, Kol Nefesh. He was doing the machines and all this stuff.
It's mutar.
I'm saying, why would Hashem want to?
I'm not Hashem.
11 years old in this position.
I'm not Hashem. I don't know. That's his tikkun for his neshama. If the sakana b'shelo b'vaday.
He was carrying. There's no Eru was carrying also chocolates just in case.
If it's dangerous for him, it's dangerous for him.
Everything is all mutar.
If it's life-threatening, of course it's mutar for him. He doesn't have to die, right? Even if there's a small percentage, when it comes to life and death and Shabbat, you do what you do in order to be able to stay alive. A person cannot put himself in a dangerous situation. It says by a lady giving birth, even if she wants to take her neighbor with her to the hospital, the neighbor's allowed to break Shabbat to go with her. Why? Because it's dangerous for a lady to give birth, not to be able to be stable mentally. It's also sort of sakana. She needs to have yeshiva dat, she can't have tira for that. When it comes to life and death and Shabbat, we do whatever we need to do. But at the end of the day, why Kadosh Baruch Hu made it like that? I don't know. But Kadosh Baruch Hu knows what he does and why he does it. This person, this is his tikkun, this is his neshama, this is the path that Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted him to take. Everybody has their own tikkun that they need to make in life. Everybody has their own neshama, their own purpose and their own tikkun that they need to make in the world that only they can make. If a person is living and he knows that the purpose of this world is to get to Olam Haba, so when a person looks at the ultimate purpose and understands that his neshama is here just temporary, in order for it to be able to fix itself, to go back to where it came from, it's much easier for a person to be able to accept the things that are complicated in life that he doesn't understand. But when a person just lives this life for the pleasures of this life and is completely careless about Olam Haba and Gan Eden, then for sure he's always going to complain about everything that happens to him that's inconvenient, because at the end of the day he wants to live for this world. Right? When a person is focused on the next world and he understands that the tachlis of this life is for the next world, it's much easier for him to be able to accept the gezerah of Hashem, understanding that Hashem is fixing him for him to be able to come clean on Olam Haba.
This brings another question. Let's say if the person is dying and on Shabbat, Hashem, and he's not doing anything. Let's say in his mind, like, I don't want to break Shabbat, and he doesn't do anything. Is that considered as if he killed him?
Yes, he killed himself. Yes, the Chavat Lavat is going to say later on.
Kill the person who's dying.
Yes, you must. You have to. It says in Hilchot Shabbat that if somebody is a pikuach nefesh, the biggest Talmidei Chachamim, the most chashuv people have to run to break Shabbat first. Why? It says because if you're going to tell the ladies, go call 911, they're going to say, you want me to break Shabbat? They're going to take it slow. Right? You can't withdraw. You have to be lo tamod adam le'echa. You have to react right away. If there's a safek, you have to react right away. God forbid if something happens to this person and you could have saved them, how are you going to feel your whole life? React right away. Even if a person puts himself in danger, it's considered like he committed suicide. Right? It says the Chavat Lavot says later on, if a person does something very dangerous and he dies from it, it's considered as if he committed suicide. Person, low lane was driving 120 miles on a highway, gets to an accident, chas v'shom, and he dies. That in a way that's considered suicide. In a way, he put himself in a very dangerous situation.
And you can't move.
That's a different shayla. That already is a different shayla. We're going to get to that in Hilchos Avelus. It's not so simple. Right? You have to see whether or not happened by accident or on purpose. Also, you have to believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is stronger than everybody. Right? And once HaKadosh Baruch Hu guarantees something, it's happening. And there's nobody could nullify what Hashem's guarantees. That nobody, if something was meant to be yours, if Hashem decreed that something is going to be yours, or something has to be for you, nobody in the world could take anything away from it. Anything that Hashem makes a decree, gezerah, it's done deal. Nobody can overpower Hashem. Nobody can win Hashem. Nobody can convince Hashem out of it. Nothing. Not like people. If you promise me something, and then tomorrow He'll talk you out of it, He'll talk you out of it. There's no guarantees that you're going to do it. I can never trust in somebody. Right? No? I can never trust in anybody. Say, right, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu, His guarantees are guarantees. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes the gezerah. It says also, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mashgiach al hanagat kol bnei adam. This is very important to know. HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at everything that people do. He sees everything. And this is hard for some of us to understand because our minds are very time-bound. We understand beginning, end. We understand one thing at a time. We don't understand the concept of infinite. We don't understand the concept of, what do you mean, two places at once? The closest example that I could give you of this is a dream, right? If a person is having a dream, a person in one dream, he could be in 10 different places at one time in 10 different ages. You know what I'm talking about? A person's having a dream, he could be 10, 15, 20, 30, 35 all at one time. He could be riding his bike, be at his wedding, singing and sleeping, everything, he can see everything at once. You know what I'm talking about?
Never had. Normally if I'm in a dream,
you know what I'm talking about? Right? When a person is in a dream, he could see 20 different things happening at one time. Anybody that dreams a lot or has dreams will tell you that that's the way dreams work. You could even look at it online. Right? That dreams, you can dream, you can have several different things happening in one dream at one time, and you're there in all of them at one time. Right? That's the closest example I could give you of something spiritual. Then in spirituality, there's no time. Everything can happen at once. There's no time frame in spirituality. We're in the physical world, we're bound by time. We do not understand, right? What do you mean you could be in two places at one time? We don't understand that. But in the spiritual realm, there is no time. A person could be in 7 different places at one time. It could all be happening at once. How? These are things that... right. Spirituality is something hard for us to fathom. It's like trying to explain to a person that's born blind what this world looks like. Can you explain to him what it looks like? No way in the world. He never saw, you can never explain to him. This is the way it is with us in spirituality. No matter how much we can explain it, there's no way we can understand it. We're going to look at it like fire, I don't know, lights and all these different stars, I don't know what else, a big white light, and Gehenna is some big fire. But at the end of the day, we can't really picture any of these things realistically because we were never there. We know whatever the Chachamim told us is 100% true because that Ruach HaKodesh, that prophecy, they were able to see things differently than we did, right? But for us to imagine it, we can't imagine it because we never saw it. But he says Hashem sees everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't take his mind off anything or anybody, and Hashem sees everything and everybody at one time. Hashem knows what you're thinking, what you're thinking, what you're thinking, what you're thinking, all at one time. Can you believe that Hashem knows what you're thinking right now?
Yeah.
And Hashem knows what you're feeling right now?
Yeah.
Unbelievable, no? Nothing is hidden from Hashem, not the smallest of all things and not the biggest of all things. There's nothing in the world that's hidden from Hashem. Hashem sees every tiny little thing. You had a conversation with somebody, Hashem knows exactly how both of you felt throughout the whole entire conversation. The Borei Olam is infinite. The creator of the world is infinite. It's a concept that it's hard for our little minds to understand because we're physical. But to understand this concept that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees everything and knows everything and the whole entire world every second is a concept that's hard to be able to grasp because our minds are physical. But that's the reality of Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything. We'll call it like that. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved in one thing, it doesn't cause him to forget another thing. Hashem doesn't forget anything. Zocher kol hanishkachot, we say in Rosh Hashanah. Like it says, Lama tomar Yaakov v'dober Yisrael, listarad lankim Hashem. Hashem tells the Jewish people, why do you think to yourself that your ways are hidden from Hashem? Don't you know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu sees everything and knows everything? Klal Yisrael was saying this one, they were on Galus for a long time. They start to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe Hashem forgot about us. Maybe Hashem doesn't see us anymore. We're on Galut for a long time. Who knows? Maybe God got old, chas v'shalom. Maybe he left. Maybe he doesn't see. Maybe he's involved in something else. He's not realizing. Right? He says, what do you mean? He says, don't think, look, how is this possible? All these wicked people, they're giving us a hard time. How is Hashem not seeing these things? No. Hashem judges the whole world. He sees everything from the beginning until the end. He's mashgiach. Every single moment he sees every single little thing that's happening in the world. Right? You're going to ask, how come HaKadosh Baruch Hu could see us in this long galus and see how much we're suffering in this galus? How come Hashem doesn't save us? It says, Hashem Yodeh Teshinu Aseh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing, and it's impossible for us to understand the calculations of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. But we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running this whole entire world. How many stories did people hear with Hashgacha Pratit? Right? How many stories did people hear with Hashgacha Pratit? I'll tell you a very interesting story of Hashgacha Pratit, and then we'll get into halacha. So the person on time was on Eretz Yisrael. I saw somebody, and I was shocked to see that they became religious. I was so curious to know. This is one out of many stories. There was tons of stories like this. And I asked this person, how did they become religious? I never even would fathom that they're Jewish, forget about being religious. They told me that it was one night on a Shabbat, and their friends used to ask them to keep Shabbat every week. They lived in like a religious neighborhood. And they didn't want to keep Shabbat. They didn't want to keep Shabbat. So one time, his friends convinced him that to keep Shabbat. He said, okay, I'll keep that Shabbat. And what happened? He kept that Shabbat. But he didn't go anywhere type. He didn't fully keep it, but better than all the other weeks. His friend called him and said, it's my birthday tonight. We gotta go out. We keep Shabbat next week. right? You keep Shabbat next week, like some people think, right? Some people think that in Judaism and in religion there is levels. Today I'm on this level, like there's 20 levels in Judaism. Every level is okay, but that's not true. There's no such thing as every level. Now we might accept people that are on a lower level because they're in a growing process, but there's no such a idea in Judaism that, okay, now I'm on a lower level, this is okay. It doesn't work like that. The Rambam says, the Gra says it's also, that even the biggest Rishayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to ask them, how come you didn't make Erev Tafshilin on Yom Tov? There's nothing that's overlooked. There's no concept like this, like people think. That if I'm on a lower level, Hashem won't ask me why I didn't do things. Doesn't exist, right? So, he told me that Shabbat he kept, and he told his friend he's not going out with him for his birthday. He promised his friends he's going to keep Shabbat. He told me that night his friend got into a car accident. He flew out of the car flipped and smashed him. He said once he saw that he kept Shabbat to save his life, he realized something happened there, right? There are many stories like this, right? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you see Hashem runs the world. Well, the mice I could tell you a lot of stories, but it's not for a recorded shir. But let's get into a few halachas for like 5-10 minutes, and then I guess we'll stop this shir there.
A lot of times, the laws are underneath. A lot of rabbis, they have, especially like in our community, a lot of them have different customs, different opinions. And my grandfather passed away, and so every rabbi was giving something different. I kept telling him, like,
Different than hugging, maybe, I don't know.
My mom said.
Like what? Can you give an example?
Huh?
Can you give me an example?
One rabbi said, he's a rabbi that does a lot of burials in the cemetery.
Yeah.
He said, you don't have to do shiva. It was shocked.
Why doesn't he have to do shiva?
He's like, it's not required. It's something extra that if you want to show. Why do people do it? Just to show that you want to do something extra for someone who passed away, right? So like,
that's so hard to believe.
Okay, so I told my family, the rabbi said, we're going to have to do it.
Who passed away?
My grandfather.
Was he religious?
The thing is, I don't know if he did. He was in the hospital like 7 years. So I think he did tshuva, honestly.
Before he went to the hospital, was he religious?
No.
You have to know what the rabbi is talking about. You have to understand where he's coming from. I don't know where he's coming from.
Hold on, what did he tell you?
He said you don't do shiva.
What? You or you?
No, anybody.
What?
That's crazy. I don't know.
This is a rabbi who does this every day. He buries people every day.
It was holiday.
Maybe because he was in hospital for a long time. Maybe he was already considered like he passed away a while ago. I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
I don't know the whole story. I don't know the whole
No, it
calculation.
happened recently. It was a month ago. It was a regular day. A month ago there was no holidays.
You gotta ask the rabbi why he told you that. I can't answer for him. I don't know what the calculation was. It's probably a calculation.
No, but he said in general, he's like, I don't think you don't have to do it at all. He's like, you don't have to. It's not. It's like.
I'll tell you.
It's a good thing to do.
That's not true. It's a halacha in the Gemara, and we learn also from Moshe Rabbeinu. The Rambam says that you should shiva. It's a halacha that's created in the Torah itself. It's sourced. It's not something that.
No, I asked my parents.
I'll tell you.
In a low chair. He's like, you don't have to know this thing. He's like, if you want it, you can do it. It's something extra.
I'll tell you that.
It's a good thing to do.
I'll tell you that there is an obligation for sure to sit shiva. That's for sure. Not even a question. But there's no. I don't know. There are exceptions in shiva. There are exceptions. It's lengthy conversations that are not for now. Maybe as we go, we'll get to it. And but I don't know.
מי זה אמר? הסבא שלו או הרב אמר?
woman.
Tov, the Shulchan Aruch says like this.
That's another thing. Another custom is that Bukharis, they all sleep in one house. All the Avinim. One rabbi, one like very strict Bukhari rabbi, he's like, you have to sleep in the same house. Eat together, do everything together for 7 days.
It's better.
That's the thing?
It's better, yeah.
And also Daven, Shacharit, Mincha, Arvit, that's also
It's
thing?
better that all the
In
Avilim
house?
stay together in one house and they don't separate and travel on their own, yeah.
They don't have to sleep.
They don't have to sleep in the same house, but they should be with each other throughout the day. If they don't have room in the house, yeah. But you don't have to. If somebody tells you, I can't, I want to go home. Let them go home. Tov. We're up to Hilchot Aninut. We started, we'll start again, and we'll do a little bit of Pitchei Tshuva over here. It says, Mi shemet lo met. If a person passed away, Shu chayav litabel alav. Right? So a person that passed away, and it's somebody that is obligated to sit Shiva for. Right? Any family member that is obligated to sit Shiva for father, mother, brother, sister, wife, children, lo aleinu chas v'shalom. Person's obligated to sit shiva for, we should never know. Everybody should be live a long life and a healthy life, B'ezrat Hashem. So before the shiva, before the burial, the person is in a state called onen. Right? When a person passes away, the first thing that we do, we do kriya. Right? Person has to rip. But we don't do that now, we do it at the burial. That's the minhag, how it became. But officially, it has to be done right away when you hear about it, when a person hears about it. And then before the burial, that stage is called onen, aninut. A person is patur from all mitzvot. Right? He does not do any mitzvot. No davening, no learning, no saying brachot, no birchat hamazon, nothing. Why? Because we want the person to be fully involved in burying the dead body. We cannot keep the person busy and occupied with anything else except burying the dead body. And therefore the Chachamim came along and they patted this person. They said, you right now, patur from all mitzvot. But only mitzvot aseh. He's only allowed to not do mitzvot that are a positive commandment, that by refraining from them, he's not over a negative commandment. But it doesn't mean a person can do an averah, that you cannot do. Right? But a person cannot, we don't put on tefillin, we don't daven, we don't do any of these things. Why? So a person could be involved fully in the burial of the dead body. Now, there's a discussion amongst the Rishonim. The Rabbeinu Tam held that if somebody passed away, and he has other people, say for example, the Rabbeinu Tam's sister passed away, and he lived in a different city. He personally ate meat and drank wine. He did not sit aninut. Why? Rabbeinu Tam's opinion was that if there are other people involved in a burial and he's in a different city, he doesn't have to be an onen. That the halachot of the aninut apply only to a person who has to be involved in the burial, or he's there. Right? He has the ability to bury. But we don't follow that. Our opinion, we follow the Shulchan Aruch. Even a person in a different country, doesn't make a difference. Somebody passed away before the burial, he's considered onen. Right? No mitzvot, no nothing.
What about mourning? Like people around people, like they're looking at this person, like, why are you eating meat and drinking wine?
There's no marita ayin. There's no marita ayin like these things. Marita ayin doesn't apply to every single halacha. Now, let me tell you, marita ayin, wherever the Chachamim asked marita ayin, it's aser. Wherever they didn't apply it, it does not apply. Now, some instances a person has to be smart, right? The person can't do things that people are going to suspect him of doing an avera. It says in the Torah, "V'yitim nikim Hashem Yisrael." You have to do things in a way that you're not giving people an impression or idea that you're doing an avera, that you're doing something wrong, right? So, for example, the person wants to go into McDonald's. He wants to buy a can of soda. He's very thirsty. There's nothing else here, so you have to be very careful, right? You have to be very, very careful. Because somebody might see you and might think something wrong. So there's no Isser Maris Ayin, but there's a concept of using your Zeichel. So if a person is sitting, somebody passed away, if he's not doing it, there's no Isser Maris Ayin. But halacha is not like that. Halacha is that the person has to do it, or a person has to be an onen. Right? And not only that, a person's not allowed to eat in the same room as the dead body. If there's a dead body in the room, you're not allowed to eat in that same room as the dead body. You have to go out of the room. Right? And he says over there, and he says over here also the Shulchan Aruch writes, you don't learn, no Torah, no mitzvot. A person that's onen, he doesn't count for a minyan. If there's 9 people in the room, onen is a 10 person, you don't say kaddish, no kiddusha, no nothing. Why? He's not mitzaref leminyan. He's patur legamre from mitzvot. He's patur from everything.
What if he wants to do it?
So there's a machlokes. לא נקרא, he's not considered them.
למה יש כאלה שאפילו יושנים, הוא יושן?
הוא יותר טוב יושן, בגלל שהוא חייב. The person is חייב, he's sleeping. We go as long as we have here 6 that are answering. Even that, the 10th one is sleeping, not such as halacha. It's a machlokes. We only make a little bit out of it. We make a little bit, but not everywhere. Right? Not by like kiddusha and stuff like that. We try to be more machmir. But here, he's patur be'etzem. He's like a child in a way. The child's not mitzaref leminyan, he's patur, right? So he's patur, that's it. There's no obligation for this individual to daven, right? There's no chiyuv. So therefore patur, he's not a part of the minyan. I'll tell you a chiddush, by the way, off the topic a little bit. There is an Abu Darham that writes, why did Hashem make women patur from mitzvot? Why did Hashem make women patur from mitzvot? Women are obligated to daven, women are obligated to learn. Right? Say a man sitting at home, he has free time. Every moment he has an obligation to learn Torah. A man has an obligation to daven. A man has an obligation to finish Shas, to go through poskim, to become obligation. Chava. Every person has an obligation to learn as much as he can.
Says finish Shas. The whole Shas there.
Yeah. Rav Chaim Vital writes, every Jewish person has an obligation to finish Kol Torah Kula, but that's not getting into that. Right? The Mamloaz writes, every Amma Aretz, Amma Aretz is not a degrading statement. It means every common person is obligated to know at least the Shulchan Aruch, at least all of Mishnayos, and at least all of Tanakh. Understand that how you want. But a person has an obligation to learn Torah. A woman doesn't have that obligation. A woman could just sit down for an hour and read a cookbook, and that's it. There's nothing wrong. Right? A guy that has an obligation of learning Torah, if he's going to sit and do nothing, he's over Naver every second. Of course, if a person needs to relax, not over Naver, bitulos the kiyuma, but if a person is involved in nonsense all the time, he's over Naver. Those Naveras pile up. That's one of the reasons why we mention after a person passes away, we mention the mother's name, not the father's name. Why? Because the Ben Ish Chai says usually the mother has much less averot. So mention the father's name, he might have a lot of averot, it might not be too good for him. Right? So therefore we mention the mother's name. She has less averot because she has less obligations. But the Budraham writes, why is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it that a lady is not obligated in mitzvot? You know why? He says because he says a woman, she's obligated to her husband. Since she's obligated to her husband, she has to clean, she has to cook, she has to take care of the kids. She has an obligation to be there for her husband. So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would keep her busy with mitzvot, with davening, imagine a guy would come home. He would ask his wife, he's hungry, all day he's working, right? Where's the food? She says, I was busy, I was learning today, I was learning a Gemara, I had a hard time, I couldn't get out of it, and then I daven mincha afterwards, I got stuck in the minyan. So what are we talking about, right? So it creates tremendous shalom bayis problem. So therefore, since a woman is obligated to be able to serve to serve her husband, to be there for her husband, therefore Hashem parted her from mitzvot. That's what he says. A fascinating chiddush. But going back to one end, right? He says aninut, right? No aninut. The Shulchan Aruch says that even if you want to do the mitzvot, even if you want to daven, even if you want to learn, even if you want to do it, you cannot do it. Even if you want to do it, you cannot do it. The Rama says asur, even he goes too far to say asur, to answer Amen. Asur to do anything. The only thing you have to do is just do netilat yadayim for bread without a bracha. It's a whole thing why you have to do that. I don't want to get into it, but you have to do netilat yadayim. Because there's a little bit of an issue if a person doesn't do it, because it's a whole Indian of netilat yadayim is from when the Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt for the Kohanim. That's why we do netilat yadayim. So it has like a connection to an issue to it. So Shabbat and Yom Tov, there's no aninut. Right? Shabbat and Yom Tov, there's no aninut. But if a person wants to bury the dead body on Yom Tov,
You can do that.
through Goyim. So a person wants to tell a Goy to bury the dead body on Yom Tov, then there is aninut. Once a person says, okay, he wants to bury the dead body through a Goy on Yom Tov, right, there is aninut. We don't do that today, but if a person would want to do that, he could do that, right?
Or if the body's like out, this is like a 3-day Yom Tov. It's Shabbat, Yom Tov, right?
It's the second day of Yom Tov they do it.
The second day.
It's much more less.
The Goyim or the Jews can the Jews
Second
break?
day of Yom Tov, even a Jew could bury a dead body.
You can break.
For the dead body, they allow the second day of Yom Tov for a Jew to do it, but generally we don't do it.
Even what about driving?
No.
Driving to the cemetery.
No.
So what's the difference?
No driving. Only to make the hole and to whatever's necessary to build to bury the dead body, or you give it over to the Chevra Kadisha, whatever they feel is necessary for them to be able to do. But today, nobody Chevra Kadisha. I don't know if they do it. And also, it's like a certain situation, right? But generally today they put it somewhere, and then after Yom Tov day, right? So if a person passed away, on Shabbat, and there's a Shabbat and 2-day Yom Tov afterwards, right? So there's no aninut on Shabbat and Yom Tov. If the person's going to be buried after Yom Tov, we don't say a person's onen now, all Shabbat, no mitzvot, no nothing, no. Since you can't bury him, so you're being refrained, but you would want to, but since it's now this is Shabbat and you can't, therefore you are not obligated to sit aninut, right? Not obligated to sit aninut. However, there's one thing that's asur. This really might be two things that are asur. One thing that's asur, the person is not allowed to be with his wife. Even at Shabbat and Yom Tov if somebody died and not bury it. Because on Onen not allowed to be with his wife. Right? Onen also not allowed to take a shower. during the week. For Shabbat, you can't take anyways, right? But Shabbat, he eats meat, he drinks wine, and so on and so forth. He sits regularly on the table. But throughout the regular day, if somebody dies before the burial, a person can't eat meat, can't drink wine, can't take a shower, can't sit normally on a chair, right? Can't perform like a normal person. A person has to sit aninut. But if a person wants to bury this dead body on the second day of Yom Tov, or on Yom Tov itself, if a person wants to take goyim and bury the dead body, say there's a cemetery somewhere here, doesn't feel comfortable, he hires the goyim to go bury the dead body. Of course, without the Jews going, that the goyim can only go, you're not allowed to go. Right? There, a person would have aninut right away until this dead body is taken and being buried.
Bisman Yom Tov, is there any hut for the dead body?
What?
They're saying to bury the dead right away because it's the neshama.
They're saying the fact that you're being refrained from Yom Tov to bury the dead body is difficult for the neshama. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is the neshama isn't like in the air if it's not buried until, right? There's an air, something like that.
If this doesn't do nothing
know.
to the body, why to rush?
They say that the neshama is just wandering around for the first 30 days and then for the first year. 730, 1 year, it's always different, but it's stages. But it doesn't, I'm not so sure if it suffers more on Shabbat. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I thought Gehinnom was closed on Shabbat.
For those that keep Shabbat.
Oh yeah? How can you have it working if it's Shabbat?
Ma?
How can Gehinnom can be...
How can Hashem make it rain on Shabbat? It's causing the produce to grow. How can it, the
Yeah, but
nature?
this is already like also, I mean,
Nature.
it's like already before done.
No, it works naturally. Hashem turns on the fire of Gehenna Erev Shabbat and it burns all of Shabbat, just like you turn on the fire of Shabbat. Yeah, he has a Shabbat timer. And that's it. Only if a person kept Shabbat, he doesn't go to Gehenna at Shabbat. If a person didn't keep Shabbat, he goes to Gehenna at Shabbat. Right? So,
Does it make a difference if someone was suffering for years, but he wasn't able to keep Shabbat?
he gets a kapara. He gets a kapara. Listen, it's not this whole thing with Gan Eden, Gehenna. A person has to serve Hashem. A person has to be Shomer Torah Mitzvot. We're going to see later on. If a person was porek all and didn't do anything, didn't care about anything, lived like a wicked person, had break Shabbat in public and so on and so forth, it's not so simple that there is even aninus or avelus or anything. Right? But L'maasen, there's a topic that we'll discuss later on when we get into the sugya. We'll marich on it. But right now, let's stick to aninut. Let's go one step at a time. So let's just conclude. Person dies before the burial. There's no meat, no wine, no taking showers, no learning Torah, no nothing. Doesn't make a difference where a person is until the body is buried. Shabbat Yom Tov, since the body cannot be buried, there's no aninut. The only thing that would be forbidden is for a person to be with his wife.
Why? What's the difference?
Because it's Devarim Shebetzina, it's things that are more quiet. After he's buried, mutter wine, mutter meat. There was a minhag that after a person was buried, they used to give him 10 cups of wine.
Yeah.
In order to be able to, but then they saw people were getting drunk and they stopped this minhag. But to be able to come down.
Stronger. How are they giving 10 cups?
I don't know what that means with the wine is stronger. I don't know if it means the alcohol percentage or the strength of the wine. I don't know. It's not so simple what that means, right? But they would drink 10 cups of wine, and they would. But people got out of hand, so they stopped. Yes, a noble is allowed to drink wine and eat meat, but before that stage, Aninos is not allowed to. Now, if they decide to bury him on Yom Tov, then he does become an onen. Then he's asked to drink meat, to drink wine and eat meat and to do all those things, even on Yom Tov until they bury the body, if he decides to be able to be involved in the actual burial on Yom Tov. I think there was a big Rebbe one time, one of his children passed away and he got him buried through Goyim on Yom Tov. He didn't want the body to be out. There, the aninut would be chal right away. So B'ezrat Hashem, next class we'll discuss a lot of interesting cases that the Pitchei Tshuva brings, like a lot of interesting cases that happen, like complex cases, not all the black and white cases. And he's going to delve into how to deal with the situation.